Namaste and welcome to Detours with me, Anuradha Goyal, where I talk to some very interesting personalities about journeys of all kinds. Today we have with us Bharat Ghotoskar, my go-to friend in Mumbai to know anything about Mumbai. When I first met Bharat, he took me to Lower Parel and showed me a beautiful sculpture from the ancient history of Mumbai. I assume he will talk about it. Uh, Last time I was in Mumbai, I wanted to go to Mumba Devi temple, and Bharat took me there, and then he took me for a walk around that temple, and what he showed me uh, came out to be something like a temple town within Mumbai, which I had no idea about it existed. Uh, in fact, he always ends up showing me a Mumbai which I have no idea about. So, so today I have requested him to take us through a part of Mumbai which most of us seem to be oblivious to. So, welcome, Bharat.
Thank you.
So, Bharat, let's start with Mumba Devi today.
Sure,
So Mumba
sure, sure.
Devi lends her name to the city of Mumbai. So, tell us about her temple, its history, and its association with Mumbai.
So, most people think that the city was renamed in 95, right? From Bombay to Mumbai, which is not the case. This island has been known as Mumbai since probably the 12th or 13th century, right? And the story is very interesting that the locals prayed to a goddess. So, that's what the legend says. That she protected them from a demon called Mumbarak. Yeah, and because she protected them from a demon, they ended up calling her after the demon. So one who defeated Mumbarak is Mumbadev. Right? That's what the legend goes, and it's very interesting. Mumbarak is a local version of the Sultan of Delhi, Mubarak Shah. So Alauddin Khilji's son, yeah, and successor, attacked this region, and it is believed that the goddess protected. That's how. So it's very interesting that Delhi Sultan has some connection to the name of Mumbai, right? And the goddess, the original temple was where the CSMT station stands today, what used to be Victoria Terminus earlier, approximately that location just outside the town of Bombay. Yeah, the colonial Bombay, which was there, just outside the bazaar gate. That's where it stood. And when they cleared that area, they shifted it to the current location, which is a native town. So the fort area was the white town where the Britishers stayed, and the locals stayed across, which is known as the native town. So just north of Crawford Market, that is where she was resettled. So the current temple is more than 2 centuries old at the current location. That's how it is.
Okay, and how did Bombay get its name, or Bombay get its name?
So there are multiple theories to it. Some people believe it is derived from Bombaya, which means a good bay. Yeah, which was a Portuguese name. There's another theory which I recently heard that there was a king in this area. The first king to probably have a capital on these 7 islands was at Mahim, whose name was Raja Bimbadev, and hence this area was known as Bimbastan, and Bimbastan potentially could have given it the name Bombay eventually somewhere. Yeah, but there are old Portuguese maps which call this Mombam also. So Bombay could have been interchangeably used at some point of time, and then it got anglicized to Bombay. That's how the legend goes. So there are various theories. Nothing properly recorded. So
in fact, after you took me there, I came back and I was doing a research, and I stumbled upon something called Mumba Devi Mahatmya.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
that's where all this Mumbarak Rakshas and all that stuff is mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, can you walk us through some of the important temples in and around that area of Mumba Devi that you took me around?
what is fascinating is there were temples older than this temple itself. Yeah, so this was relocated and rebuilt. Originally destroyed during the Portuguese regime. Yeah, all the temples, just like in Goa, where you stay, were demolished by the Portuguese regime. Similarly, northern territories, so Mumbai, Vasai, right up to Daman and to the south up to Alibag, were under the Portuguese, and most of these were destroyed. Temples were destroyed by the Portuguese, and this was rebuilt in the British era. Yeah, so.
Right.
50 years ago, this city came over to the Brits when most of the temples were rebuilt. Yeah, so that's when it was rebuilt. But there were fascinating old temples in that area, like Buleshwar. Yeah, so you would have typically heard of the word Buleshwar because people go there for shopping for saris. You know, a go-to place is Buleshwar. It's a magnificent 3-century-old temple with lovely Nagar Khana. So right at the main entrance above it is a very exquisitely carved wooden chamber where the musicians would sit. You know, like typically in a palace or a haveli. This is a ceremonial entrance. So when how do I say, when pilgrims enter on special occasions or important dignitaries enter, that is when the music would be played in the Nagar Khana above, right? And people would be allowed inside. And I think so. It's a unique Nagar Khana. The kind of carvings that you see in Nasik or you see in Gujarat, yeah, Khandesh, those are the kind of carvings that you see here. So the temple itself is in the North Indian style of architecture, which is Nagar style of architecture, which is there. But the Sabha Mandap is made up of cast iron pillars. So it's just the way Mumbai is an amalgamation of various cultures, various people, and very cosmopolitan. So is the architecture. So the entrance is very similar to a Portuguese arch on which there is a Gujarat style Nagar Khana. So it's a mishmash of architectural styles which is there, and it is very fascinating. Yeah. So Mumba Devi is a main temple. Kalba Devi, another temple, is nearby. So Mumba Devi is in Zaveri Bazaar, where all the jewelry market, real jewelry market, is in that area. Kalba Devi or Kalika Mata is the fabric market area, right? And Buleshwar has many small lanes. So there's a Fool Gully there, there's a Chandi Gully there where beads are available, there's a Papad Gully. You have been there, so it's probably one of the most crowded places on earth, right? And driving through it would be actually, when we do open jeep safaris in that area, people are shocked that places can be so crowded. And very fascinating temples. So one of my favorites is something which is known as Mota Mandir. So I think so it's spread over some 2.5 acres. Now in Mumbai, to get a space which is 2.5 acres, because it's about more than 2 centuries old temple, exquisite. It's a palace, and a palace dedicated to baby Krishna. Yeah. So and baby Krishna is treated like a baby. So everything from morning to night, he's woken up. There's a lullaby when he sleeps. Chappan bhog lagta hai. There is a small bagicha area where he takes his cows, to graze. There's a darbar, ceremonial darbar on special occasions, where he is the god, and all his courtiers come, and exquisitely wooden carved stuff. So that is so magnificent. There is a Samudri Mata Mandir. Now it's very rare. I have read that there's a Varun temple, the god of sea. There's a temple in Karachi. Yeah, and I think so down south there is one temple dedicated to the goddess of the sea.
There is one in Daman as well. There is one Samudra Narayan or a Varun Dev temple in Daman.
Very interesting. So having and Samudri Mata, I found it very interesting that she's a landlocked area. Yeah, Buleshwar is not sea facing.
Right.
So I was wondering how come a Samudri Mata is in this area. And when we looked at the old maps, we realized that only 7 islands were different. And the heart of what is today South Bombay was all marshy, watery land. So Buleshwar was actually sea facing at one point of time, and the Samudri Mata could have been at the edge of water. Now when everything has been reclaimed, you don't see it that way. And I don't know if you recollect, we had seen a Panchamukhi temple, yeah,
Yes. Yes.
Hanuman temple at that
Yes.
time.
The
Yeah, so it is
huge
a
Hanuman
Swayambhu
temple.
temple. Exactly. And if you remember that, unlike most Panchamukhi temples where there are 5 faces all looking at you, here 4 of them look in 4 directions and one looks towards the sky, right? There's this famous story in Ramayana where, Ahiravan, the Adipati of Patal, underworld, takes away Lord Ram and Lakshman, in the netherworld, and it wants to kill them. And that is when Hanuman takes this special roop of 5 different faces. Yeah. So one is a horse face, and Harigriha, and all those faces. And because 5 lamps in 5 directions, if extinguished at one go, Ahiravan will be killed. That's what it is. That's the and
Right.
I have been to many places where there are Panchamukhi, but this is the only one which has 5 faces in 5 directions, right? So
And it
very,
almost
very,
looks like a Swayambhu, a natural.
it is. It's a volcanic rock
Yeah.
which is there, right? Mumbai was made out of a volcanic eruption, so
Right.
it's a volcanic rock, very very, and this is bang opposite the main Bhuleshwar temple, and very few people actually know about it because there's not even a board outside which says that this is a Panchamukhi temple here. So only the locals know about it.
By
And
Mumbai standards, it's a
another
fairly large
fascinating,
temple.
yeah, it is.
Mhm.
And even the first Swami Narayan temple in the city is in Bhuleshwar. Yeah, third, what is known as Tija Bhoiwada, the third lane of Bhoiwada,
Mhm.
is where it is. It's magnificent. You have to walk up, and exquisite carvings, exquisite paintings, and the Hanuman there. And it's just it's a delight. It's a psychedelic delight. The colors which are there, it's something to be seen. Also, of all these, there's one more magnificent this thing. There's something known as Surajwadi, in which there's a Surya Narayan temple, which is unique because Mumbai doesn't have any other. In Maharashtra, as far as I know, there's one in Konkan, down south, along the coast. But then, of course, we know of Modera, we know of Konark,
Yes.
Suryanar, and there are various temples, including Kashmir. But
Right.
Mumbai is very interesting because end of the 19th century, they actually created a modern temple for. At that time, it was modern, but a
Mhm.
new temple because a long time Surya Narayan was not being prayed to. So they actually had a challenge of deciding how to actually create a temple like this, and that is when the Onicha Brahmins and the
Mhm.
the Brahmins came together to come up with new, after studying this thing, how do you actually consecrate a temple of
Mhm.
Surya Narayan? And it's magnificent. It opens at sunrise every day and
Mhm.
closes at sunset. Yeah, exactly that. And
Yeah.
the special day is Ravivar, of course, because that's
Yeah.
the day of the sun. Very, very magnificent temple, which is something we see. And of
Yeah.
course, there's some 100 temples in that area. I can keep talking on and on
Yes,
and on
yes.
and
That brings me to, in fact, not many people know that even Delhi had a lot of sun temples.
on. Oh,
Nobody knows about them.
yeah,
Only
yeah,
one Suraj Kund survives, and there
yeah,
too the temple is lost, kind of. But
right,
there are areas which are named after sun,
yeah,
so there must have been sun temples.
yes,
They will make a comeback when they have to.
yeah, yeah,
So that brings me to a question. So you're saying all these temples were built in last 300, 400 years maximum. So where would you say is the oldest inhabited area in Mumbai?
Yeah. So if you look at it on the same island, so out of 7 islands, one island was Mumbai or Bombay, right?
Mhm.
Uh, so all this, what I'm talking to you, is during colonial era. So when Hindu communities made money in trading under the Brits, they built these temples, right?
Mhm.
But there's a far older enclave which is an ancient tirtha. Yeah. When I say ancient, it is really ancient, right? So it is mentioned in Puranas and things like that.
Mhm.
And so this area is very, very near to the Raj Bhavan, or the governor's palace in Mumbai, which is an area which we know as Malabar Hill. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, Malabar Hill and this area, which is known as Walkeshwar, that's the Adipati, the main deity of that area is Walkeshwar, right? And legend says that Rishi Gautam had an ashram which was located here, and on the way to Lanka, so Lord Ram was staying in Nasik, right? What today is the city of Nasik. That's where Panchavati is. And on the way to Lanka, he passed this area, right? And where Rishi Gautam advised him that he should pray to Lord Shiva and in a special Spatika Lingam, so which should be brought from Banaras. Uh, so it's believed that Lakshman was sent to get that and he was delayed. So till then, Lord Ram created a lingam which was fashioned out of sand, yeah, which is known as Valuka. And so it is Valukeshwar, that's the real pronunciation. That was a magnificent temple. We don't know how old the original temple was, yeah, but about 1,000 years ago there was a ruling dynasty in this area which was called the Shilaharas, and they built multiple temples, one of which survives to date, which is the Ambarnath temple on the outskirts of Mumbai. Yeah, a very, very magnificent temple. A similar temple existed where the Raj Bhavan stands today, yeah, which was known as the Walkeshwar, and then it was, of course, damaged during the Islamic invasions. What the Portuguese used to refer to as the Black Pagoda was demolished literally by cannons. Okay, and remnants of these temples can even today be found in different samadhis on the corner of a tank which is called Banganga. So the other legend is that this area has a large tank, so it's a step water tank which is as large as a football field, and it is believed that because there was no fresh water and there was sea on all sides, Lord Ram struck an arrow in the ground, and out came Bhogavati or goddess Ganga, yeah, and gave fresh water, and it collected in a pool which was created, and then it overflows into the sea. It is only in the Shilahara regime that steps were added to this so that people can reach water. Of course, geologists tell us that it is a natural lava flow which has a dip where water collects, but it's a fresh water pond, right? And it's right next to the sea. So just few buildings away from that is the sea. It's on the sea cliff. Technically speaking, it's the oldest built structure in South Mumbai. If you look at Mumbai as a city, what is today within the municipal limits, then Kaneri Caves would probably be older, right? But this in South Mumbai, the original city, this is the oldest built structure which is there. And it is ringed on all sides by temples, and of course, all these temples also have been built during the British era because all the previous temples have been were demolished totally. And you see temples again similar to Buleshwar having amalgamation of different styles. So you have Nagar style, you have temples with domes, yeah, because with the Islamic invasion came the art of making domes, arches, and vaults. So you can distinctly see the structure is very similar to the way mosques are, where you have a dome, but then you have that's the Garbhagriha, and then you have a Sabhagriha in front of you. Lovely carving. So there's a Balaji temple which is in a distinctive Maratha style of woodwork, which is there, right? Some other temples are Nagar style in the Garbhagriha and very Konkan style in their Sabhagriha, yeah, which have Mangalore tiles. Typically the way you see temples in Konkan area. Siddheshwar is another magnificent, believed to have been built by Raghunath Rao Peshwa. That's what the legend says, some of them say. And it is distinctively Deccan in style, so completely made out of stone. The way you see temples in Pune, in Kolhapur, that kind of stuff, right? Which is very similar to that. But what I find very, very magnificent is that there used to be multiple akhadas in this area, right? Just the way you have akhadas in Nasik, in Ujjain, in Banaras, Kanpur, yeah. And akhadas, when I say, these are not the bodybuilding akhadas, but sadhu akhadas, right? At one point of time, to prevent the invasions, sadhus took up arms, right, to defend the faith. and many of them like Jairam Gir Baba Akhada, and many akhadas existed. Some of them have converted themselves into sweetmeat factories. Some are residential. Some still have temples in it. But attached to these akhadas are magnificent old graveyards of the sadhus or samadhi stals. Yeah,
Right.
you are aware that
Yes.
sadhus are not cremated.
Related.
Yeah, they are buried, and they are buried in a padmasan, right? So you have square or cuboidal graves which are there, in which they are buried, and usually you would have a if there's a shivlingam on top of it, it's a male sadhu, and if there are two charans or feet carved on it, footprints carved on it, it's a sadhvi. That's how the significance is. And so they at one point of time there would have been several akhadas and burial grounds like these. Not many of them survive, right? Then of course there's a sampradaya within the Navnath tradition called Inchagiri, Inchagiri Sampradaya. One of the saints from that, Siddharameshwar ji, his samadhi is there at Banganga, right? So there are multiple samadhis. There are samadhis of royalty there, like the Angres, Gondal, and all these royal families, because many of them had palaces on Malabar Hill, yeah, during the colonial era. So people look at Banganga as just a how do I say, just a tirtha where you go and you pray and you come back. People don't try to get the essence of it. Yeah, they probably go for somebody's last rites. They do everything, but they don't explore that area. They don't look at the dharamshalas. One of the most interesting dharamshalas there, which is used to be the Punjabi dharamshala. And the dukandar, it's written there, Amritsar ke dukandaro ki dharamshala. So the shopkeepers in Amritsar took out money and built this thing for Punjabis when they come to Mumbai for darshan, where they can stay. And 100 years ago, when the initial phase of Punjabi actors who came to Mumbai to find a career in acting, when filmdom started, likes of KL Sehgal and all that stuff, many of them stayed at the Punjabi dharamshala.
Wow.
And and the Bollywood Holi that you see has its origin in the Punjabi dharamshala at Walkeshwar. Right, it's a sea-facing property. Now, of course, it's in bad shape. The original Krishna temple has, because of sea hitting onto the walls, it has all gone away. A few families still survive there, but it's so interesting that there is so much more. There's even a Jivanta Samadhi there. Yeah, so there's a building called Anurag, inside which there is a Samadhi which is believed to be. So the saint has taken a Samadhi while he was alive. Yeah, and he's believed to be in perpetual meditation. So you have to look at these magnificent small things. There is even a temple to Parshuram. So the other legend says that the Konkan was created when Parshuram stood on Sahyadri ranges, the Western Ghats, and threw his battle axe into the sea, and then the sea receded to create Konkan, which he named after his mother. Yeah, Renuka is also known as Konkana. So that's how he named it. And so there are multiple theories where it landed and where he threw it from. But one of the legends says that it landed at Banganga. So Banganga, the lake was created where the battle axe landed. So there is a magnificent temple built by the Bhansali family. So I believe Sanjay Leela Bhansali comes from the same family. So there is so much to see in that area, and temples belonging to different communities. So there's a small temple dedicated to Vitthal Rukmini. So I call it, there's a book called Two States. I call these the four states. So it's very interesting because in Maharashtra, Vitthal, though temple is in Maharashtra, he is referred to as Kannada Vitthal. So he belongs to the Karnataka, yeah, and he speaks Kannadi. That's what they say in Maharashtra. So he's a Kannada-speaking god in Maharashtra, whose shrine is in Mumbai, but it is owned by a Gujarati family. So they dress him up like Srinath ji, who is in Rajasthan. Now that shows the diversity of Mumbai. right there. That if it is the most cosmopolitan city, even the temples show the cosmopolitan nature,
Yeah.
and there are two mutts there. So you are from Goa, so the Kaivalya Mutt or Kavade Mutt as it is
Right.
locally known, has an auxiliary branch in Mumbai, which is also some 3-4 centuries old, which has a Shanta Durga shrine in it. Yeah. So the Mumbai sthan of Shanta Durga is at Vaikeshwar. There's Kashi Mutt. The original mutt is in Kashi, so it is of the Gaud Saraswat Brahmins. But it has a auxiliary mutt here, where two of the Mathadish are have samadhis there. So people come for that. There's a Ved Vyas shrine inside the Kashi mutt. So very rare kind of places which are there out there. Interestingly, Malabar Hill, as we call it today, because they say that Malabar pilgrims came and landed at that spot. So Malabar, as in everything south of Mumbai, was Malabar coast for them, right?
Right.
That spot is very interesting. It was called the Shri Gundi, and there was a cleft in the rock, yeah, which was called the Divine Yoni. So from where everybody is born, yeah, and if you could pass through that rock, yeah, you would be born again, and you are absolved of all your sins. So it is believed that Chhatrapati Shivaji actually passed through. That's the only place where he came to what is today the city of Mumbai, and he passed through that cliff. It was there till about 300 years ago, and then probably because of the lashing of the waves, the rock cracked and fell down. Right, so it doesn't exist anymore. That's how it is. So it's a very fascinating place. If you know Pandit
In fact, I remember attending a concert at Ganga once, and I always thought this is the origin of Mumbai. This is the fresh water, and everything else must have come later. But just the presence of fresh water means that you can have a settlement here.
Totally, and probably for almost 12th century, somebody or the other has continuously stayed here. So there could have been older settlements which have been depopulated, yeah. But continuously somebody is staying.
Talk about the caves in Mumbai quickly.
Yeah, sure. So you have to realize there are different caves at different points of time. Kaneri, I believe, is the oldest. Yeah, so it is before Christ, and then there are cave temples which are built 5th century, around 5th, 6th, 7th century, which are the Mahakali, which is known as Mahakali. Originally, Kondeutachi Leni is what it is known as. Then there is Jogeshwari and Mandapeshwar. Yeah, so there's also one called Magatne, which is almost in bad shape. So there is actually a slum within the cave. Yeah, people staying at Magatne are not aware that there are caves there. But different caves. Mandapeshwar at one point of time was converted into a church, right? During the Portuguese era. So there's actually a cross carved out and things like that.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, and Mahakali is actually a Buddhist cave. Yeah, so then of course later on people say it's an ancient Puratan Mahakali temple and all that stuff, but it's a Buddhist cave. Jogeshwari is a Brahminical or Hindu cave, right? And probably one of the oldest Hindu temple surviving. I'm sure most people who stay in Jogeshwari haven't seen the temple, so because it's all has slums on all sides.
I have seen that, but the question I have is, were these caves like dwellings, or they were a part of the trade route, because you do have ports, ancient ports like
yeah. So most of the Buddhist temples certainly were along the trade routes. So the capital at that time, at different points of time, were either Zunnar or Paithan on the plateau, right, on the other side. But all along the trade routes. So Sopara was a very famous port. So was what is today we know as Chaul was port. So all the trade routes and the ghats or the passes through the mountains, all along that you see caves everywhere, right? And depending of which religion, which belief was peaking at that point of time, the local kings would have supported them. So you have Brahminical caves and you also have Hindu caves. Some of the Brahminical caves have been converted into Hindu caves, right? So where you have a Bhumi Sparsha mudra of Buddha in a cave called Gomashi, people call it as Brigu now. So it's how locals, start interpreting these. And some of it's very interesting. Very near to Danu, there's a cave which was later converted to a Parsi cave. So when attacks were there, their holy fire at Sanjan was brought and kept there in Barot caves. So you even have Parsi caves. Imagine, yeah. So
another example of a cosmopolitan nature
exactly,
of the region,
exactly. So it's very, very fascinating to look at it. We shouldn't look at anything in the city from the strength that we have when we show people the city is that we try to show it from different angles. Yeah, it's not the standard. These are the British buildings. Now go home.
It's important to see all the perspectives. In fact, there is so much more that we can talk about, and you know that.
Yes.
I'm going to wrap this edition. I'm sure you're going to come back on this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wrap up by asking you to tell people about how can they see Mumbai with you with Khaki Tours.
Sure.
And we'll of course share all your details in the description so that they can reach you.
Sure. So we are not a conventional travel company to say, right? So we didn't start it because we are just another travel company. We believe that there is so much history hidden in the bylanes of Mumbai, and we need to help people discover. A lot of research goes into putting together. So our most famous offering, of course, is the open jeep safaris. What is known as the urban safari. We are probably the only people in the world who do safaris in urban areas, right? We don't show wild animals. We show old buildings, right? And that's the best way because you don't have to walk much. We cover over 17 kilometers just in the fort to show different areas, right? We also curate it as per who you are, right? So if you are a Irish doctor, the city is totally curated differently from the way you are a Japanese artist. Yeah, because you are an artist, because you are of a particular age, because XYZ are your interests, the whole thing is curated to who you are and your interests. So we take a lot of care to understand who you are and curate it accordingly. So that's what makes us very, very different. And the people who host you are not tourist guides in the conventional sense. So that's not what they do for a living. They do this because they are passionate. Some of them are doctors, architects, story writers, engineers, directors in companies. But they do this because they are passionate about it, and they take out time.
Anybody is passionate about Mumbai and they want to flaunt their city to the rest of the world, you can also contact Bharat.
Yeah, and that's why we call them the ambassadors of Mumbai. They are not tourist guides.
Right. So Bharat, thank you so much for this.
My pleasure.
Have too many questions for you as always. We will come back to you for another session on this. Thank you so much for being on Detours.
My pleasure always.
Thank you for joining us on Detours. You can also join us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Our handle is Inditales, INDITALES. See you soon.